welcome to the HoodAstroQ.
What's up, YouTube? This is your girl Megan from the HoodAstroQ. Welcome back to my channel, to all of my returning subscribers. However, if this is your first time joining me on today, hello, how you doing? Here we use knowledge from celestial bodies to help us gain a better understanding of our favorite celebrities, world events, and most importantly, our damn selves. So if you don't mind hitting that subscribe button to join the family, it's free 99, doesn't cost you a thing. However, if you are interested in supporting the channel, or if you would like to gain exclusive access to astrological content, feel free to join the Patreon fam as well, okay? All of the information on that is in the description box below. And then finally, if you're interested in getting your very own personal natal chart reading done, contact me at astrowerld, that's astrowerld @gmail.com, and we can get you squared away on today, okay? So as you guys can see, I am doing yet another celebrity birth chart reading, this time on rapper Fivio, I believe is how you pronounce his name, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't know much about this man, okay? I'm sorry to this man. Don't know much about him, but I have been getting a few requests, and a lot of people who really want to know more about him, because he found his way into the headlines recently after being arrested, okay? And reports are saying that he was arrested for beating up his pregnant baby mother. And I'm like, is it something in the water? What's going on with these men beating up pregnant women? Because I believe Slim Jimmy, okay, from Ray Shrummer, got in trouble for doing the same thing, or at least accused of doing the same thing. So, you know, whatever. Let's just go ahead and get into it. So Fivio was born March 29th, 1990. I cannot get over how crazy that number 29 is. And interestingly enough, the other person that I use as an example of abusing a pregnant woman, which is Slim Jimmy, the rapper from Ray Shrummer, he's born on the 29th as well. I think he's born the 29th of December, if I'm not mistaken. So that number 29 is a very challenging number. It can be extremely detrimental to the person who has it, because it can produce anger problems, you guys, and especially with Fivio already being an Aries sun, right? So attached to a sign that's already naturally like, aggressive and can be very hostile. This can point towards a person with extreme issues in regards to their temper. These are people who cannot control themselves. They can fly off the handle. Okay, extreme impulsive reactions. These are the type of dudes where, you guys are arguing and they'll just haul off and punch the wall or something like that. Well, or in his case, punch you, probably in the head, because Aries deals with the head. It could also give way to domestic problems that number 29 can. A lot of these people were raised in abusive families themselves. It's also not uncommon for men with that number 29 energy to have a lot of animosity towards women. And a lot of times it started with the mother, okay? Especially when you're talking about that number 2, because the number 2 is governed by the moon. So these men could have a lot of aggression and just tension and just anger issues when it comes to women. These are men who could dead ass hate women on the low. They could love sex. And I also find that it can create a very extreme temperament when it comes to like sexuality. So these people can be hypersexual. Once again, very much exacerbated with him being an Aries. And Aries can be very hypersexual men as well. So he gives me, off of this aspect alone, or off of this placement alone, the vibes of a person who could enjoy vagina but not like women. And we'll talk about it more, because it really does reappear all throughout his chart. This could also even deal with where he could have issues with guns. I don't know if he's ever been arrested for weapons, like, things like that. These people could also have lots of issues with race, their own image. A lot of times you'll find 29 individuals have problems with their own, self-image. And these are men who could be colorists. Okay. These are men who could actively seek out women who, are the opposite of what they are, right? I tend to find this a lot, okay? They could also have major issues with their own sense of identity. Once again, further kind of compounded with him being an Aries sun. These are people who typically can be very ambitious people, right? Very driven, determined, and they have a lot of goals they want to accomplish, but they could lack the confidence. There could be a lot of issues with self-esteem. And most people in general, but specifically when it comes to men, just based off of the way they're socialized, I tend to find that they project, right? When a person is feeling powerless, they project and overcompensate and do the most, right? Which is another thing I see in his chart that we'll get to in a minute. These are also people who could be big on family or have big families. And I think he has a couple of children, but he has a lot of karma involved in that as well. So his sun is at the 8th degree of Aries. And that right there, especially with that number 8, it could deal with a person who could be sadistic, who can thrive off of inflicting harm and pain on other people. They could be overbearing, cruel, mean, and controlling. Okay. And then his sun is squaring his Chiron. And his Chiron just happens to be at the 10th degree of Cancer. That 10 breaks down to 1, and that could just further reinforce this very kind of domineering, tyrannical type of energy, especially when it comes to women. So you could also look at this aspect, right? His Aries sun squaring that Chiron at Cancer, reinforcing him having mommy issues. I don't know if his mother was in his life, but if she was, it's highly plausible that she could have been abusive herself. He could have been in a situation where he watched his mother be abusive, right? And where he essentially just kind of has a chip on his shoulder in regards to women. This man is a fucking psychopath. And I normally don't make super definitive statements based off of natal charts because our natal charts show our potential, right? Because I do believe that free will is a thing. And there's people are different, right? This man is a psychopath. With Chiron also dealing with wounds, you can look at him or this square between his sun and Chiron as him being someone who could naturally inflict wounds upon women. And with Chiron in Cancer dealing with the stomach, right? I wouldn't be surprised if he punched the girl in the stomach or if he's ever punched a woman in the stomach or something like that. But loosely translated, this can deal with him being extremely volatile, extremely temperamental, abusive towards women. Absolutely. It could also make him emotionally immature, a person to where if he feels triggered, if his feelings are hurt, he will lash out. And I also thought it was interesting because I did some digging and I don't have the baby mama's birthday. Well, I don't have her year of birth, I should say. I don't know how old the girl is, but I did notice that she was born I think it was July 26th or something to that effect, or was it June 26th? She's a Cancer. So that would make her a Cancer, actually. Which, I mean, I'm not really sure exactly what else is going on in terms of her chart, but the fact that he has so much affliction to this Cancer energy, right? Chiron in Cancer, that's not a good sign. That could point towards a very karmic relationship. It could also just reinforce her being his punching bag or her being the brunt of a lot of his the trauma that he throws her way, or her having to deal with that. And Cancer women, for the record, will accept a lot of abuse from their men. They just will. Cancer women have a difficult time putting their foot down. They have a difficult time. These are like your ride or die bitches in the zodiac because they often are very... And don't let you have children, right? Because they are all about family. I want to protect my family. And now that I think about it, she made a statement following his arrest where she was like, oh, nothing happened. This was nosy neighbors. We had an argument. Our neighbors were nosy. I will never support my father or the father of my children being put in jail and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, girl, it was given very like, I'm defending my abuser tea, Stockholm syndrome type of tea. And when I saw that she was a Cancer, I was like, oh, Oh, and they also have a difficult time moving on from the past. So these are people who could stay and remain in relationships for a long time, or even after they move on or break up with a partner or somebody that they really loved or created a family with, they will harbor on and hold the torch for that person. So it's very difficult for these women to break out of abusive dynamics. And another really good example of a Cancer woman who embodies this energy is Tiny. And I'm going to leave that there because y'all already know Tiny and T.I. and that whole circus. But taking it back to Fivio, his moon is in Taurus and it's squaring his Leo South Node. And this is also a red flag because it can deal with the man who is very misogynistic with that Taurus moon. Actually, Aries is very misogynistic as well. And that's something that I just get from him. And it's also reinforced with his Leo South Node. These are men who can be very barbaric, very caveman-ish in the way that they view women, the way that they regard women, right? And it could just be, I mean, it's problematic, to be honest. But with his Taurus moon squaring that Leo South Node, that could just definitely make him just tyrannical, okay, in his relationships with women. It could also deal with where he's just naturally somebody who's going to have a lot of drama involving women and children, especially with that Leo South Node. And it could deal with where he could be so much of an asshole where he could be controlling with the money. So I even see him being the type of dude who will, be stingy with money or cheap or try to use money and dangle money over a woman's head to kind of get her to do and act how he wants her to. And his Pluto at the 17th degree of Scorpio is squaring his Leo South Node as well. So there is a strong possibility that he could have or at the moment be experiencing some issues with child support and stuff like that. So I could definitely see him being somewhere where money could be an issue. His moon is opposing Pluto, okay? That could create for an abusive man, okay? And ladies, when you're looking at your crush's natal chart, pay very close attention to his moon and his Venus and the aspects to Moon and Venus, because it's very telling about the way in which he interacted with his mother and the way in which he will interact with you. Now, I will say that Moon in opposition to Pluto can deal with a person whose mother maybe passed very early on. So that's why I questioned initially if his mother was in his life. But even then, that could still bring about lots of trauma, right? Lots of mommy issues. So that reinforces this theme being depicted here. But it could also, once again, deal with where maybe the relationship with his mother was very contentious. Okay, maybe she's draining him for money. Maybe she's very and solely dependent upon him. Maybe he's one of those type of people who has to support their whole family. And maybe his mother was just a bad influence on his life. Perhaps he has a lot of resentment. You could look at that as resentment towards his mother and then just women in general. It could also deal with, once again, where he's very controlling, very possessive, very territorial. That's even reinforced with that Leo South Node. So he gives me the vibes of those dudes who could do whatever they want, right? Men who are chronic cheaters, which, by the way, is another manifestation of that number 29. These are men who could often cheat in a lot, and reinforced with him being an Aries. Aries can be very primal men, and they, especially if they're unevolved, they're driven by their dicks, right? Their hormones. Same thing with Leo South Node men. It's just, this is a mess. And with that moon in opposition to Pluto, I could definitely see him being abusive. That is an abusive aspect. I wouldn't even be surprised if he has been in a situation where he's choked a woman out before, because Taurus deals with the throat in opposition to that Pluto. And Scorpio, this could literally be a guy wrapping his hands around your throat and then just squeezing. Now, you could also look at this as him being involved in illegal activities for money, which, he's a gangster rapper. I'm not really surprised by that. Now, that could also result in custody issues as well with children. He has a lot of drama involving women and children. Also, his moon in Taurus is squaring that Aquarius North Node in addition to his Mars and Venus, okay, because his Venus and Mars are conjunct his Aquarius North Node. Once again, reinforcing just a lot of issues, lots of drama with women, lots of drama in relationships. And it could just deal with where he is emotionally kind of cold. Especially with that Venus and Mars in Aquarius, where he could just be very detached and cruel and just evil in the way in which he deals with people, women in particular, where he could even feel very entitled to women. And then with his Pluto squaring that Leo South Node, once again, that could deal with him having issues with child support. I could also see him being, once again, a major cheater to the point where maybe he could have contracted some STDs, allegedly. Not always, but that can be how that plays out, right? Where there could be hidden children, like if he messed around outside of his relationship and has children outside, like illegitimate children. That's also reinforced with his Jupiter and Cancer conjunct that Chiron, him having illegitimate children that maybe live across town. I get a lot of that, like where he could be the type of guy to have a family over here and a family way over there, or another woman way over there, or a chick over here who has a baby. And then he has to do like what do you call those things? Like a DNA test, which interestingly enough, Pluto and Scorpio does deal with DNA. So squaring that Leo South Node, I could definitely see him being the type of guy to have to get a test because somebody put a baby on him, right? This could also even just reinforce a lot of like toxic relationships, or him being the type of person to be in a lot of toxic, abusive relationships. And something else that's important to know about Leo South Nodes, these are people who can be extremely intimidating. So they can resort to intimidation factors or tactics rather, especially when they feel powerless. So like I was saying earlier, it's this theme of overcompensation. And with his Leo South Node squaring Pluto, once again, this is a person who will go above and beyond to try to force you to do what they want to do. It could also deal with on again, off again relationships and things like that, okay? And to where death could be a very prominent theme within his life, once again, even by way of a father or something like that, because I also get that he has daddy issues as well. This man, somebody help me, because like I said, I don't know much about him. So if you know anything about him, how he grew up, drop it down in the comment section. If you have any other information that can contextualize this reading, feel free to let me know, because he gives me a very dysfunctional man who comes from a very dysfunctional household where he was abused, not only physically, I would even argue sexually with this Aquarian energy here. His Venus conjunct that Aquarius North Node, Mars conjunct the North Node, squaring his moon, squaring that Pluto and Scorpio. And that's something else I tend to find too with men who were abused, sexually violated. They have a difficult time really being able to embrace women, right? Because your sexuality has been tampered with. It has been exploited, right? So it robs you of your ability to form, relationships with people. And women, intimate relationships, healthy relationships. So they have this thing where, once again, they could become very hypersexual, right? Which I think he is hypersexual and addicted to the mechanics, the physicality of sex, but the intimacy and the emotional part and the spiritual part could be just completely dysfunctional. So once again, resulting in a man who maybe loves vagina, loves fucking, but hates women in every other respect. That Jupiter in Cancer at the second degree at that, once again, at number 2, dealing with women, dealing with family, dealing with your emotions, conjunct that Chiron also just reinforces him having family problems, okay? Him having issues with his emotions. I also get the vibe that he's a narcissist as well, which could also be indicated with that Leo South Node, but he also has his Mercury and his Sun squaring Neptune, okay? That is the quintessential aspects, or those two are quintessential aspects of a liar and a person who is just a grade A narcissist, especially once again with him being in Aries, to the point where he thinks so highly, he thinks so much of himself, he could be so full of himself, right? I mean, that Cancer woman, his baby mother, she don't stand a chance. I don't even have to look at his chart or her chart after this, because his chart is such a hot fucking mess. And even with him having his moon squaring his Aquarius North Node, that just further reinforces, very karmic and challenging relationships with women. And then he has the other two quintessential abuse aspects, which is Mars squaring Pluto and Venus squaring Pluto. Ladies, once again, if you see a man with Venus square Pluto, don't walk, run. Run away. And then he also has the nerve to have Moon in opposition to Pluto. Run away quickly. Don't call them back. Don't explain your whereabouts, because they may be the type to stalk your ass. Just leave. Just leave. That Sun square Neptune could also deal with him being someone who may be accustomed to going in and out of jail, right? It could also deal with the person who could have substance issues, and just a person, once again, where they can be very insecure. And one thing that a lot of narcissists do is, at the core of it, they don't feel like they're as great as they portray themselves to be. So it is it's a method to kind of help overcompensate. So yeah, that's just that on that. I'm not going to waste another moment. I feel like this reading was long enough. You guys get the point. So a lot of people were speculating as to whether, he was guilty of abusing the girlfriend, because especially after the girlfriend came out and tried to disprove the rumors and all this other stuff and took up for him. I'm here to tell you now, he beat the shit out that girl. And this is a regular thing. And this man needs help. And if you are within earshot of my voice and you know this man and you're a woman with a vagina, or maybe a woman without a vagina, he could be into that too with his aspects, but run away and never return. That is all. Y'all have a good one. Make sure you practice unconditional self-love so that you can love others, and stay away from niggas with Venus in negative aspect to Pluto. All right. Bye.
If I'm with you,